For decades, the Boston Celtics have been more than a team. They have been an institution, a living chapter of basketball history, where banners, legends, and unforgettable nights coexist under the same roof. When the Boston Celtics were officially sold for $6.1 billion, the sports world understood it was witnessing one of the most expensive and dramatic ownership changes in the history of American athletics. At first, the plan looked cautious. The legendary figure W.Y.C. Grousbeck would remain at the helm until the year 2028, guiding a slow and measured transition before the new owner, Bill Chisholm, would officially take control. That scenario has now been completely overturned. According to new reports, Chisholm is not waiting for the future. He is stepping into command immediately, surprising not only Celtics fans but also executives around the league who expected years of stability before this change. Why the sudden acceleration is still a mystery. Was it pressure from investors, a bold move by Chisholm to establish authority, or perhaps a sign of new strategies that could reshape the balance of power in the NBA? Nobody knows for certain, and that is what makes this moment so electrifying. The first signs of Chisholm's leadership came quietly, but with enormous impact. One of his earliest decisions was to clean up the payroll. For a team that had been paying some of the highest luxury tax bills in the league, this shift marked a decisive break from the past. On the surface, cutting costs can look like a retreat. Yet history reminds us that financial discipline often paves the way for sustainable dominance. The Oklahoma City Thunder reached the finals without paying luxury tax. The Indiana Pacers managed to make a deep playoff run while avoiding those same heavy penalties. The lesson is clear. Spending recklessly is not the only path to glory. Chisholm's approach seems to be a calculated bet on efficiency. Instead of pouring money across every position, Boston appears ready to concentrate resources on its true cornerstones, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Both already carry maximum contracts among the largest in NBA history. That foundation is secure. Around them, however, the blueprint is shifting. Veterans with expensive deals like Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis represented the old model of buying depth at any cost. The new management may prioritize flexibility, searching for undervalued players, carefully crafted trades, and smarter draft selections that can fuel another era of contention without financial instability. The intriguing question is how far this philosophy will go. Could Boston transform into a franchise that mirrors the Thunder, developing hidden gems from late draft picks and integrating them into a system built on discipline and vision? Or will Chisholm leverage his private equity background to create an entirely new model for how a global sports brand can thrive in an NBA that is changing rapidly, with television contracts, international expansion, and player salaries climbing at unprecedented rates? There is also an emotional layer to this moment. Celtics fans are watching the most successful franchise in NBA history enter a new chapter that few could have predicted so soon. The uncertainty is unsettling, yet it is also filled with promise. Imagine a team that is not only competitive every season, but also financially resilient enough to seize unexpected opportunities, whether that means absorbing a superstar's contract when another team collapses or making bold trades when others are handcuffed by cap restrictions. That is the kind of advantage Chisholm may be seeking. For decades, Boston has been a symbol of tradition. Now it is stepping into an era of experimentation. Nobody can say for certain what the next 5 years will look like, but one fact is undeniable. The Celtics are no longer following the plan. They are rewriting it. Fans may feel the shock now, but history suggests that the greatest stories often begin in moments of disruption. What if this surprising change is the very spark that sets Boston on course for a dynasty unlike anything seen before? Celtics are living through a summer that future historians will revisit as a hinge point in basketball history. What happened in 2025 was not a quiet offseason of minor adjustments. It was an earthquake that redefined ownership, restructured the salary map, and planted seeds that could bloom into an entirely new dynasty. The stunning part is not only what was done, but also when and why it was done. The decisions that unfolded in July and August of 2025 carry implications that reach far beyond next season. They may shape how the Celtics compete and dominate for the next decade. The shock began with the sale of the team. On August 19th of 2025, the ownership of the Boston Celtics was officially transferred for $6.1 billion. The magnitude of that figure made headlines around the world, not only because it was one of the largest transactions in the history of American sports, but also because of the unexpected acceleration of the process. The previous plan was for WYC Grousbeck to guide the organization until 2028, offering a slow transition that allowed continuity. Instead, William Chisholm took immediate control. Why would a new owner accelerate a takeover by 3 full years? Was it fear of waiting, a sign of hidden instability, or simply confidence in a new strategy that could not afford delay? Whatever the motive, the symbolism was clear. This was not a cautious takeover. It was a declaration of intent. From the moment Chisholm stepped into command, financial engineering and roster reconfiguration became visible. On July 7 of 2025, the Celtics traded Jrue Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers for Anfernee Simons. At first glance, it was a surprising exchange, a proven champion and defensive anchor for a younger scorer with limited playoff resume. But beneath the surface lay a sophisticated calculation. Holiday was owed $104.4 million over the next 3 seasons, a heavy commitment when combined with the gigantic contracts already guaranteed to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. By moving Holiday, Boston not only secured a 26-year-old guard with elite shooting ability, but also generated close to $40 million in tax savings. That number matters profoundly in the era of the second apron, where financial penalties handcuff flexibility. The Celtics in one move reshaped their timeline, lightened their burden, and positioned themselves to exploit opportunities when rival teams buckle under financial strain. The curiosity is whether Simons will simply be a scorer or whether Boston sees him as the ignition for new offensive structures that were impossible with Holiday on the floor. The roster building did not end there. Depth was fortified with decisions that reveal a long-term philosophy. Chris Boucher, a 2-time champion with a wingspan that alters shots and a motor that never slows, joined the team in August. His contract was modest, but his presence fills a strategic void. Boucher does not need touches to alter outcomes. He blocks, he runs, he rebounds, and he brings championship experience that influences culture. At the same time, the Celtics secured Neemias Queta on a multi-year deal, a 7-footer with mobility who offers rim protection at a fraction of the cost of more established big men. Alongside him, Xavier Tillman Sr. agreed to a 2-year contract worth less than $5 million, another sign of efficient investment. Tillman is known not only for defensive grit and rebounding, but also for a high basketball IQ that can stabilize bench units in playoff scenarios. Together, Boucher, Queta, and Tillman create a rotating wall of length, toughness, and versatility, allowing Boston to stay strong even when stars rest. In parallel, the Celtics turned to the draft with precision. With the 28th pick, they selected Hugo Gonzalez, a 19-year-old wing from Spain who had already developed within the demanding system of Real Madrid. Gonzalez offers slashing ability, defensive instincts, and international pedigree that few 19-year-olds can claim. The Celtics then added Baylor Scheierman, a shooter and playmaker from Creighton, whose collegiate career showcased a polished skill set and a mind for spacing that perfectly aligns with Boston's style. Both Gonzalez and Scheierman arrive on cost-controlled contracts, which means the Celtics gain upside without sacrificing cap space. But the deeper story is about flexibility. By flipping draft picks with Orlando, Boston also secured future second-rounders, keeping the cupboard stocked for trades when other franchises falter. The commitment to youth extends beyond the draft. Jordan Walsh, entering his 3rd season, has transformed from an unpolished athlete into a young player whose defensive energy and aggression stand out even in the intensity of summer league. His 17-point outburst in July combined with his fearlessness earned public praise from his coach. Walsh represents the Boston Celtics stand at the edge of a new era. They are not a franchise trying to cling to past formulas. They are rewriting their own playbook in real time. What began with a shocking sale for $6.1 billion is unfolding into a carefully designed strategy of depth, efficiency, and explosive potential. The rest of the league may not yet realize it, but the Green Machine is positioning itself to dominate both today and tomorrow. The only real question is not whether this will work, but how soon the results will stun the basketball world again. For the first time since 2021, the Boston Celtics are walking into a season without the crushing weight of a championship expectation on their backs. On the surface, that may sound like a step backwards, but in reality, it might be the most strategic and liberating move the franchise has made in years. Instead of chasing an immediate trophy, Boston is deliberately shaping its future, laying the concrete for Banner 19 in a way that could alter the next decade of the league. And the most intriguing part is that almost nobody knows how different this journey could look. What if a season that some dismiss as transitional ends up being the spark of something bigger? Brad Stevens has refused to take the safe route of stockpiling veterans with predictable ceilings. Instead, he is handing the keys of development to a group of young and unpolished players whose growth could determine whether Boston dominates the late 2020s. This is not the path of comfort, it is the path of vision. When you gamble on youth, you are not just building a roster, you are sculpting an identity that can outlast a single playoff run. Consider how rare this moment truly is. Boston is entering a season in which finishing as the 8th seed may not be a disaster, but a hidden blessing. Imagine a scenario where the crucial rotation minutes at the wing do not go to seasoned journeymen, but to players like Baylor Scheierman, Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez, or Josh Minott. This is not about patching holes, it is about forcing the future into the present. Every possession these young players absorb now becomes fuel for when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both approaching their 30s, will need a supporting cast that is already battle-tested. Even trades that may seem minor carry deeper implications. The move for Chris Boucher, for example, was not simply about filling a position. It was about flexibility. Boucher might start at power forward, yet his minutes at center will create an opening for a wave of youth to prove themselves. That is not a coincidence, it is a blueprint. Every shift in the rotation is designed to expand the runway for players who could either flame out or evolve into the pieces that finally lift the next banner. Now the question that electrifies this entire narrative: who will take the leap? Peyton Pritchard, the reigning 6th Man of the Year, has quietly become one of the most efficient scorers in the league. Strip away the spotlight of Tatum, and look at what Pritchard produced when carrying lineups on his own. The numbers are not just good, they are startling. Over 22 points per 75 possessions, nearly 6 assists, and an efficiency mark above 65% without the gravitational pull of a superstar. What happens if that sample was not an anomaly, but the first glimpse of a Brunson-style breakout? And then there is Jaylen Brown. After years of debate about whether he could be a true first option, he answered in the loudest way possible by capturing a Finals MVP. But here is where the curiosity deepens. Brown insists that his ceiling is higher, that he has not touched the full scope of his ability. If he adds another layer as a creator, if his rebounding and defense stretch to new heights, Boston could be looking at not just one but 2 top 10 players wearing green at the same time. Think of what that means for the balance of power in the league. Derek White's case is quieter but equally dangerous. He has already transformed from an inconsistent shooter to one of the most lethal three-point threats in playoff history. If there is even a small chance that he takes another unexpected leap, the Celtics suddenly own a third all-star caliber weapon on a team-friendly deal. Few teams in history have had that kind of depth of star power within reach. And then there are the names most of the league is not talking about yet. Hugo Gonzalez, still only 19 years old and already built like a veteran. Josh Minott, a raw athlete whose explosiveness could make him an X-factor. Jordan Walsh, flashing the ability to collapse defenses in the Summer League. Luka Garza, who could finally stretch his shooting from theory into reality. These are not just side stories, they are the subplots that could decide whether the Celtics accelerate back into contention or retool through the 2026 draft. That is the beauty of this sabbatical season. If Boston shocks the league and lands a top 6 seed, the story becomes one of overachievement and accelerated growth. If they fall short and enter the lottery, the outcome is no less valuable because it injects more young blood into an already promising core. Either path leads back to Banner 19, and either path keeps hope alive. This is why fans should not view the coming months as lost time. What we are watching is the careful construction of a dynasty's second act. The championship of 2024 proved Boston can reach the top. This season, however, is about making sure they can stay there for the next decade. Whether through breakout performances, surprising leaps, or the discovery of hidden gems, the Celtics are planting seeds that could bloom into one of the most dominant stretches in franchise history. So the real question is not whether Boston will win the title in 2026. The question is which players will emerge as the unexpected heroes that lead them to Banner 19 and beyond. That uncertainty is not a weakness, it is the very reason Celtics fans should feel excited. Because when the unknown holds this much potential, the future is never something to fear, is something to anticipate.